Hello and welcome to the Future Connect Sport and Recreation Career Chat. We're talking to a range of people who live in the area, who work in a range of different industries. Today we're looking at sport and recreation, so if you're studying sport and rec as your vet course, this might be of particular interest to you. My name is Deirdre and I'm the Executive Officer of Future Connect. We work with young people across Brimbank and Melton to support their pathways, whether that's in employment, education or training. So Elise, would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Nice, thanks, Adri. My name's Elise Smoller. I'm 23 years old. I play sport professionally and I also work in the sports and community sector. I'm Indigenous and yeah.
Fabulous. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your sort of career journey in sport and rec? So I know you studied sport and rec at school, and can you tell us about that and where that's taken you?
Yeah, so growing up, I changed schools a few different times. So I was a little bit unsettled and not too sure what I was pretty much just aiming to get a job for a little while I was at school. But I did year 11 and 12 at a sports school and I did VCAL, and that enabled me to get some certificates. And it wasn't necessarily those certificates that I stuck with in then getting a job, but it definitely gave me something to put me on the resume. And from there, when I finished year 12, I was a little bit unsure about school and uni and everything. And so I did it was like half home, half online, half in class, certificate in personal training or fitness. And from there, I just, I graduated, like I completed it, but I was very, very nervous entering the field. And it was actually from someone else pointing me out and going, hey, I heard that you're a personal trainer and I was in the autism field. So you are on the autism spectrum. Can you train my child? And so I actually talked myself down quite a bit. I was like, oh, no, thank you. I don't have any clients. Like, I was so nervous that I genuinely put myself down, and they were like, yeah, well, we'll learn together. And this job was in the eastern suburbs and I was a little bit in west. So it was about an hour and 45 one way. I thought, okay, I'll go. Super, super nervous. Did the job. And then from there, she was like, well, it's too far for you to go for just one client. I have a friend who has another person who needs personal training. And from there, it grew. So obviously, bit by bit, then I've started to move closer to home. And now I travel maximum half an hour. But I think what got me there was saying yes and having the people that believed in me. So doing my best in terms of, it took hard work to finish the course and I didn't really believe in myself, but just being able to show up and say yes, opportunities come. And I didn't know when I went into the course if I would complete or if I would be able to get a job in the industry. I then didn't know, like just micro yeses then got me enough of an income.
Yeah, that's really good advice, I think. Can you tell us, I don't even think you probably have a typical work day, but could you tell us what sorts of things you do in your work day?
I think if I look back last year, I was going from client to client to client and I was missing a lot of the other things that I need to do to set myself up for the work day. So I did burn out a little bit, where now I really value space in my diary. Every day is different, and I also know with me that I probably can't work more than 3 hours. So I'm someone who's quite energetic, and so I'll bring lots of energy in and then I'll crash.
Yeah.
So a typical work day looks at, number one, like the beginning, taking care of my mental health. So I might go out and be physically active myself. From there, let's act as if it's not COVID.
Okay. Yeah.
Drive to work, have a client, then have me time. And then I also then allocate time to look at emails and that. But I realize that whenever you say yes to lots of things, you're also saying no to other things. And so giving myself time means that when opportunities can come, I can do it. But my typical day doesn't look like a full-time job. But at the same time, that's no disadvantage to me because I've got space for some pretty big gigs and yeah, space to invest in my professional growth as well.
Yeah, excellent. So just on that idea of your professional growth, do you feel like, you know, sometimes I think young people have the idea that they finish school and they don't have to continue learning formally. Do you continue to do different courses and expand that?
With the personal training, to keep registered, you do need to upskill. And I was also told in high school, you know, I was told from everyone, education is the key to growth. But my understanding of education was very, very different to my understanding now. Before it was like sit at a desk and do work, where for me, it's now education is learning about myself, learning about communication skills, all these micro lessons that then make life so much easier. Like even education on how to have difficult conversations where it would naturally spike my anxiety and I'd probably just avoid that person. Yeah. Asking for money is something that is quite difficult and nerve-wracking if someone owes you. So that education in terms of organization, anything that I wasn't good at and anything that I'm still not good at now it doesn't need to be a weakness. If you identify it and you work on that kind of insecurity of I don't know it and just skip to it and go, okay, I'm going to learn this. I found that a whole lot more valuable from being younger to get a hold of those skills in education. Because then now I'm going to go to university and now that I'll be able to do it where I think I know if I was to do something greater than a Cert 4 straight after high school, I would be overwhelmed, probably think that it meant that I wasn't good enough and drop out. So education on yourself is, I forgot the question, sorry.
No, that's right. So I think you've touched a few times on this idea of self-talk and what you tell yourself about what you're experiencing. So I think that's really good advice to give to young people. And, you know, I agree that sometimes people won't be ready to do a degree or something straight out of school, but that doesn't mean they never will be. So I think you're a good example that down the track, you might be ready to do something like that.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's not the best to compare, but it's also good to observe and observe other people's experiences. And my friends are in uni and doing like a Bachelor of Psychology, but she's always been either a lifeguard or a Kmart person, where my brother is now, he wants to go into psychology, and I've recommended do a smaller course, maybe it's in youth work or something. Yeah, diploma. So then you can also not worry too much about the ATAR, but then you can start earning sustainable money to make room for your study. It's not sometimes going straight into uni isn't sustainable. For me, it was my mental health and my ability to complete it wouldn't be sustainable. And for other people, it's also more sustainable to not go about it that way financially.
Yes. And you talked about some of the skills as in some of the qualifications, but what are some of the other skills that you need in personal training or working in the sport and rec field?
I think good energy. It's really contagious if someone is not the most positive. And when you go into a workforce, when you are even needing to ask questions, confidence and having that healthy brain is, for me, like the number one. When I'm not feeling good mentally, whether that's as an athlete or working as a personal trainer or youth worker, I start to resent my work. I start to get nervous and start to have thoughts of that person doesn't like me. And when I'm in my healthy brain, it's like, oh, they're taking a break from their training, or maybe they need extra support.
Yes.
So the skills of good mental health, I look at it as that's something I need to always exercise. It's as important as it's an important muscle as it is to have a body that can walk and move. Other skills, it was skills, yeah.
Yeah.
Other skills is like leadership, but not leadership in the more sense of
Bossing.
Yeah, leadership in terms of being able to take on everything that you take on. You need to be able to hold and show up for that.
Yeah.
So knowing how to show up, organization skills. But when, like, this all would sound really scary to me if I listened to this video, because I couldn't answer a phone call. Like, I couldn't answer a phone at all when I finished year 12. Emails, I really struggled understanding emails and didn't know how to answer them professionally. Came from pretty much a bit of a housebound setting. And so if I listen to all this, I'd probably think it's a bit scary, but all those skills, you don't need to have those skills to get the job. You just need to be able to be open in working on those skills. And doing it. Yeah. I mimic, if I find a good email, I save it and create a template.
Yeah.
And then write the emails in that template. If someone says to me once in an email, I hope that you're coping well with these difficult times, I'm like, great way to answer an email. That's how I answer it for the next couple of weeks. Or hope you're enjoying the weather. I continue that. If there's a good timetable or resource, it's all about getting 80% of what works for other people and then adding the 20% that you need so you can show up.
Excellent. And what would you say is the best thing about working in this industry?
Well, the best thing for me is that I enjoy sport. If I didn't enjoy sport, or if I was in another industry that I didn't enjoy, it would be hard work. Where for me, my the job that I do is actually also my outlet.
Yeah.
There's parts that I need to manage, and that's the work side of it. And surprisingly, there is a fair bit of work on the computer, even when you're doing a active job. However, that engagement, doing what you love, genuinely gives me energy. And if I don't then work, then I lose my connection, I lose my purpose, and I lose my physical outlet.
And you've also been able through sport to do some other great things too. So you've been involved with, is it the AFL Disability
Ambassador? Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that.
In what way?
So what is that role and what do you do in there?
Yeah, so there's people that play feeder, which is football, intellectual disability, people with an intellectual disability playing football in the league. And that role appealed to me to be the first disability ambassador for AFL, because there wasn't one. And going up the football pathways, I didn't disclose that I had autism, because I had experience of schools seeing a diagnosis and just putting me in a category. Mm-hmm. And I didn't then think that the sport industry would be any more educated on how to deal with, but how to utilize people on the spectrum or people with a disability.
And perhaps how to be accessible to people with disabilities and people on the spectrum,
Yeah, well, I have a lot of things that I do that I need to do to ready myself to play sport, and that's even just training. There's a lot of things that I need to do, and I didn't want them to see that as a disadvantage. So I didn't disclose. And so when this role came up, I thought, this is great, because I can have more of a platform to show people, hey, I'm Elise, I have autism. 2 years ago played with Bulldogs. Last year played with Essendon, and this year COVID. And I have disability isn't a disadvantage. The only disadvantage is when it's not catered for.
Yes.
And so that was really important to me. I understand I have the limitations of female sport, unfortunately not being at a bigger scale as male sport. So then my hope was then I can do talks and change the culture of an understanding of the AFL men players who then go into their schools and do their talks. And I am 100% certain that there are one or more people on in the AFL, male players, who live with a disability. And so that's my goal, is that then someone else will step forward, taking on that role that now exists, and be proud of it, and just change the stigma and increase accessibility for pathways for all athletes, whether they're in grassroots league or elite.
Yeah. So my last question was going to be, where do you see things in 5 years? But I think what you've said is exactly what you would hope for in 5 years' time. But
Yeah,
that's what happens.
Yeah, I believe it will. People's voices are getting out more, and even what I believed stepping into, it's a scary place to say to the world, this is me. And when you see it as an insecurity because I was bullied, it's a scary thing to be like, hey, this is me and it's not so bad. And now I'm a huge advocate that it's our strength and the disability lies in the environment. And when more people are exposed to that possibility, then that's when we're going to create systematic change. So I think the world's going to become more accessible, and I don't want to stop at just accessibility. It's about utilizing, because when we can utilize, we understand and see someone for their strengths, then we're creating opportunity, and we're losing too many people's amazing brains in.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that today, Elise. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Deidre.